Okay, it looks like my clock is showing 11 o'clock right on the dot here. Go ahead and start my video so that those of you can see me. Greetings, I'm Bobby Newman with the National Network of Libraries of Medicine here at the University of Iowa. For those of you not familiar with my office, we serve a 10-state region that goes from North and South Dakota all the way over to Kentucky. You can see kind of on the map on the wall behind me. I am recording this meeting, and we will be posting a recording of it on YouTube later. For those of you who haven't used Zoom before, if you go to the top of your screen, you can choose an option to exit full screen, and that'll go ahead and bring that chat box up for you. If you have questions you want to ask or anything else, I've typed a couple things in there. I see Marcia Francis and a couple other names I recognize, so welcome everyone. It's great to have you here. This is today's National Network of Libraries of Medicine webinar. It's a Kernel of Knowledge series. It's hosted by the Greater Midwest region, as I said. For those of you not familiar with us, we are located at the University of Iowa, and hence the Kernel of Corn in our Kernel of Knowledge series. Just a few housekeeping things. You are all muted upon entry. If you want to ask questions or make comments, please use the chat box, and you can send that to everyone so everybody can see the questions that you'll be asking. I will be monitoring the chat box, but Noah won't be able to see it while he's presenting, so I will read those questions off either at the end. Let's see, what else? All right, that's it. We were not able to secure a closed captioner for today, so this recording will be sent off to be closed captioned before it goes up to YouTube, so expect to see that in about a week or so if you're interested in that. All right, so let me introduce Noah. Noah is an assistant professor of library and information studies at the University of North Carolina in Greensboro. He is also the founder and director of Let's Move in Libraries, a program I hope you're all familiar with. It is an international initiative to get people of all ages and ability moving in libraries. He is also a member of the Public Library Association Promoting Healthy Communities group, which is how I met Noah. All right, we have a full program today, so with that, I am going to let Noah take it away.
Great. Thanks, Bobby, and thanks to everyone who's here. I see some familiar faces, or names, I guess should say, and some new names as well. So pleased to be able to spend this hour with all of you talking about starting, sustaining, and assessing partnership-driven health programming at your library. And so really the context for this is this trend here in the U.S. Really promoting more partnership-driven programming. So the U.S. Institute of Museum and Library Services, as part of their Community Catalyst initiative, pulling this right from their website, challenges museums and libraries to transform how they collaborate with their communities. And really what we're seeing is that the most effective, in my opinion, programs that libraries are doing relating to health and wellness almost always involve some sort of community partnership. And so we'll be talking about how we do that. And the other context, both the current president of the American Library Association and next year's president of the ALA Association, both have really prioritized health and wellness as well as partnership. So there's just a big effort to encourage this. And as if you've seen the health literacy toolkit that the American Library Association has put out, one of their slogans is because libraries are partners in a healthy community. And that, of course, implies that we're working with others to increase and improve the health and wellness of our communities. And so what I'll be talking about today, some of the things that we'll be covering are who are our partners, how do we find them, what can we do with them, how can we assess what happened, and then finally, how do we keep the momentum going? And there'll be some time towards the second half of the webinar for some interactive components, and I'm hoping that you all will play along with me, and hopefully we'll be able to learn together. And so just to kind of put my cards on the table, and I really think the most effective programs, particularly in a public library setting, which is where I'm coming from, involve either food, physical activity, or mental health. And I've been particularly looking at, as Bobby mentioned, at physical activity, but I'm also now been looking at kind of the roles of public libraries in contributing to food justice and addressing food insecurity. So I'll be talking a little bit about that as well. My blind spot is that I haven't been doing too much in the realm of mental health, but there's some phenomenal things happening, and hopefully during the Q&A, you all can share some of the things that you may be doing relating to mental health at your libraries. And so what in the world does physical activity have to do with public libraries? Well, a lot actually. So the World Health Organization and their new big health campaign is called "Let's Be Active, Everyone, Everywhere, Every Day." And really, what this represents is a broader sea change in terms of how physical activity is promoted in society. Gone are the days where you have special PE classes and you go to the gym and that's all it is. In the face of what public health scholars call a global pandemic of physical inactivity, libraries and other institutions are really being called upon to do more to promote physical activity. We've really realized that you can't just have physical activity relegated to particular spaces and particular times. It has to be more broadly integrated into the social institutions where people spend their time, such as libraries. And the other initiative I'd really encourage you to take a look at, if you haven't yet, is here the HHS, Health and Human Services, their new Move Your Way campaign, which was released earlier this fall, and is just absolutely incredible. And one of the things that I find really interesting about this new initiative is that it really focuses on the importance of increasing physical activity and promoting healthy physical activity at a younger age than previous guidelines. The earlier HHS guidelines focused a lot on school-age children, and the new guidelines really focus a lot on pre-K, and so there's a lot of opportunity in public libraries in particular to think about how we can do more to encourage healthy physical activity and family physical activity among very young children. And so just the gold standard to kind of give an example of what I consider to be kind of a library that's really doing this in a phenomenal way is the Crandon Public Library in Wisconsin. And I'll just read the story that I'm pulling directly from a Library Journal article just because I think it's amazing. So Crandon Public Library began expanding its health programming in 2011 when Director Michelle Gilbert was invited to participate in the Forest County Health Department's 5-year strategic planning session. It was the first time I had heard about county health rankings and the different scientific-based programming that was being done across the state to promote a healthier lifestyle, Gilbert recalls. As a result, Crandall Public Library's efforts to promote wellness among the 6,054 people it serves emphasized nutrition and exercise. In 2013, the library, along with the health department and local nonprofit Forest County Ties That Bind Us, launched a running program now called Community Kickstart. 74 people registered for the 9-week training session, and about 50% completed a planned 5K run. The program was repeated with even greater success in 2015. The library also received a stipend from OCLC as part of its Health Happens in Libraries initiative, and in May 2015, the library produced Iron Chef Healthy Fruits and Vegetables edition. With the help of the Health Department, Forest County Ties That Bind Us, the Forest County Coalition on Activity and Nutrition, and the Crandon School District. The competition was held at a local school cafeteria where 15 participants created healthy dishes. Partnering with our local health department on specific initiatives has made a huge impact within our community. The library is now seen as a community partner. It has allowed us to be part of the conversation and therefore part of the solution. So, like I said, I consider this to be the gold standard. This is what I think libraries need to be doing if they're not already. Getting involved, getting, as I say, get in the game, stay in the game. That's really where we're going to have the biggest impact. And it's whatever we can do by ourselves. It's going to pale in comparison to what we can do with community partners. And so I want to start by just, I am an academic, so I'll be a little bit theoretical here, but I promise you it'll be brief and painless. But I think it's important to specify what we actually mean by health, because I think sometimes that word is thrown around with a lot of imprecision. And for me, I really pull upon the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, and they had a report a few years ago, what is health equity and what difference does the definition make? And it says in the report, health means physical and mental health status and well-being distinguished from health care. And this is really important because I think a lot of times when we start talking about health in libraries, what we're really talking about is engagement in the healthcare sector, which is quite different from health itself. And I think we also need to specify what exactly we mean by public libraries, because I think sometimes we get caught up in the informational role of libraries and forget about all the other functions that they serve. So Wayne Wiegand, probably the preeminent historian of American libraries, finds that people love public libraries because of the useful information they make accessible, the transformative potential of reading, and the public spaces they provide. And in my work, I really think that when we think about how health happens in public libraries, we need to do more to understand and to support public libraries, both as community gathering spaces and as partners in healthy places. And just an example of that, I really encourage you, if you haven't already, taken a look at OCLC's Web Junctions Health Happens in Libraries initiative. So this was a project that started in July 2013. And its original focus was on training library staff to help people sign up for the Affordable Care Act. But then when the grant was renewed, it was renewed with a broader focus on magnifying the role of public libraries as key contributors to community health efforts. And what did that look like? Well, we already saw the example from Wisconsin of their Iron Chef Healthy Fruits and Vegetables edition. It involved Zumba classes in Virginia, making healthy food choices in Louisiana, and a women's health fair in New York. And so what we see here are the types of programs that are effective and are engaging and are positively contributing to the health of communities. And so I'll just say a little bit about my research, try to make this brief. So one of the things that, as you all know, I'm interested in physical activity in libraries. And one of the things that I found is that there's a hidden history of movement in libraries that goes back a long ways, a lot more than I think people realize. And so my colleague at Louisiana State, Suzanne Stauffer, has been researching the history of the library gymnasium movement, which was an effort in Utah, Illinois, and Ohio to create hybrid library gymnasiums during the first half of the 20th century. The movement kind of fizzled out but it's kind of a hidden history, a story that I think deserves to be told and understood, with policymakers thinking about reading and physical activity going hand in hand at an early period. And even back in the early 1990s, we see articles in the practitioner literature, such as this article on a library in Connecticut that was inviting a fitness instructor to come down to the library and lead a series of programs actually on physical activity for teenagers at the library. And so what do we know about this trend? Some scholars at the University of Maryland found that between fall 2013 and fall 2014, 22.7% of U.S. public libraries offered at least one fitness class. Lily Liu from San Jose State University in California found that exercise programs were the second most common type of health program offered at the San Jose Public Library. And some scholars from the University of Pennsylvania in public health, they did a survey of how libraries in Pennsylvania contribute to health, and they found that slightly under 50% of all Pennsylvania public libraries said they offered physical activity programming at their library. And this is really important because I think there's been a lot of talking about the rise of social workers at the library, and that's unmistakably an important trend. But I think it's far less common and far less frequent than physical activity programming, and so it's always just a source of confusion to me why this is not more broadly looked at and why we're not paying more attention to it. And so in my research in spring 2017, I actually sent around a survey to try to get some data on what libraries were doing. And these are the 1,157 libraries that responded to my survey. And what we really found is that this is happening in both urban and suburban, as well as small town and rural libraries. And programs are really being offered for all ages, with libraries offering programs for the general adult population, about 40% offering programs specifically targeting senior citizens, which I'm particularly interested in. Lots and lots of libraries doing physical activity programming for very young children, as well as some family and all ages programming. And the other thing that I found in that research is that people really find community through shared movement in the library. So one of the things a little bit unexpectedly was that I asked respondents to tell me about what outcomes they saw this programming resulting in. And slightly more librarians said that the program contributed to community building than to health and wellness itself, which I thought was an interesting finding. And again, this has been going on for a while. And so in addition to that survey, I've been doing interviews with librarians in North Carolina and Virginia that do this type of programming. And so I want to just really briefly highlight the story of the Rural Hall Public Library, which has continuously offered a chair-based exercise class at the library since spring 2006, with librarians themselves actually leading the classes for part of that time. So it started with the library partnering with the Public Health Department. The Public Health Department back in 2006 was looking for a site for a community-based exercise class in the Rural Hall community. And there was really nowhere else for the class to be held except for the library. Like a lot of small towns, there's a dearth of public spaces, and so the space of the public library became incredibly important. And so it was a natural fit for this public health exercise class to be offered. So it started in 2016, really popular. Fast forward about 6 years, and the instructor who had been coming from the public health department became ill and was no longer able to offer the class. Well, that's when Crystal Holland, pictured here, stepped up to the plate and said, you know, this program is really, really popular. It's really engaging our community, and we need to find a way to continue it. So she actually went to the public health department and went through the training necessary to become a certified chair-based exercise instructor, and then went on to lead the class herself at the library. And so this is an amazing story, and I think it really illustrates some of the roles that libraries play in the health and wellness of their communities. And so, yeah, and you can see similar stories all over the country. Here's a story from the Chicago Tribune on yoga classes in the Chicago suburb. So my research, and this is from some ongoing work I'm doing with a colleague in Oklahoma. We've been looking at who libraries partner with to offer these programs. And so these are just some of the common partners in the East Coast of the U.S. We see lots of libraries working with the Master Gardeners, the Cooperative Extension System, working with local businesses, Parks and Recreation, health nonprofits. And one of the things that we've been finding is that one of the big trends right now is to do gardening programming. And so this, what I really like about gardening is that it's both food and physical activity all at once. And so it's a great fit. And so just before I get into how to the actual starting and sustaining of partnerships, I just want to quickly highlight 6 ways that libraries get us moving according to my research. Some are making movement part of existing programs, such as through yoga story times. Some are just doing fun physical activity, ballroom dancing at the library, new collections, checking out snowshoes, new spaces and infrastructures, a story walk, for instance, getting people active outdoors. I see lots of walking groups taking place in libraries during warmer months. And then, of course, the more traditional fitness and movement classes, yoga, Tai Chi, Zumba. Um, and I've also, as I mentioned, been looking at how libraries contribute to food justice. And so as part of that work, I found 4 ways that libraries feed us. So libraries are now distributing food at the library, with the most obvious example being the USDA Summer Food Program, which, according to my research, around 1,400 public libraries are feeding sites for the USDA Summer Feeding Program. So in at least 1,400 public libraries across the country, youth are able to get free meals during the summer at the library. Other libraries are teaching and enabling community agriculture, having raised beds at the library that you can use to teach people how to garden, how to take care of gardens. Teaching people how to cook, prepare, and eat healthy foods. Lots of culinary literacy efforts being underway. And the newest library here in North Carolina, the Forsyth County Public Library, actually was built with a new demonstration kitchen inside of it. So the new library was built with the idea that one of the things that this library is going to be doing is teaching people how to cook, prepare, and eat healthy foods, and actually having the space to do that. And then, of course, also offering the library support to extant food justice programs, helping people sign up for food stamps, and helping people in other ways find spaces where they can get food. Okay, so with that kind of background and context, hopefully you have some ideas of some of the things that you may want to do in your library. How do I get started partnering? And really, this can be a big struggle. I think oftentimes, so much in libraries, we get kind of locked into our desks, we get locked in our buildings, and it can be hard to reach out to the broader community. And so just to kind of I think I'll skip this just for the sake of time. I had some things on network leadership. I'll skip that. But really the main thing is, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. So this is a proverb some of you may be familiar with, and I really find this to be true. You could probably get things done a little bit quicker if you try to do it just with your internal resources. But if you really want to have a big impact in your community, you really can't do that unless you're reaching out to partners and forming networks and engaging in network leadership. And so just what does it look like in practice? Well, it looks like the Bulldog Bikes program at the University of Georgia Libraries, where the library teamed up with the Sustainability Office of the university to enable college students to actually check out bicycles from 3 branches of the University Georgia library system. It looks like the Goat Yoga program that Temple University did this fall, again with the Office of Sustainability, as well as with the Philly Goat Project. It looks like this library in Kansas, this is a school library, a middle school library, and according to the school's foundation report, when you walk into the Eudora Middle School Library, you are greeted with the sound of students' legs moving up and down, and you notice their eyes are continuously darting across the pages of the books in their hands. It isn't something you typically see in a school library. A group of 12 stationary bikes with students actively engaged in pedaling and reading at the same time. And so this is an amazing accomplishment, and it really was the middle school librarian working with the athletics department, working with the foundation, working with a number of community nonprofits to actually pull together the resources necessary to make this happen. It looks like Nashville Public Library, where according to the library's annual report last year, the public library offered 1,466 classes such as yoga, Zumba, nutrition, and meditation to 18,000 Nashvillians, with support and financial backing of the foundations of 2 local hospitals, as well as a partnership with Blue Cross Blue Shield of Tennessee. And just in addition to the numbers, they also collect stories such as for 89-year-old Dean Stevens, the free yoga class she attends weekly at the Nashville Public Library has given her a newfound stability. She says her peers are often lacking. So when it comes to assessment, you want to collect both numbers and stories, which is something I'll hopefully have a little bit of time to talk about at the end. It looks like the Stillwater, Oklahoma Public Library, where with the financial support of the U.S. Institute of Museum and Library Services distributed through the Oklahoma Department of Libraries, they offered a 5-step series of health programs that included Tai Chi, cooking, health evaluations, and so it's kind of it's hitting all the boxes. It's getting that physical activity, getting the food, getting the engagement in the healthcare, and doing it all in a fun, engaging format that people actually want to come to. It looks like these walking clubs, which I mentioned, are popping up all over the place, and frequently are driven through various community partnerships. And the image on the top is from Peoria, Illinois. And if you're old enough to remember, it used to be if it plays in Peoria. Well, this is playing in Peoria, and it could play in your town as well. It looks like Lawrence, Kansas, where they have this Health Spot Library plus Hospital initiative. Baltimore, the Enoch Pratt Free Library that invites you to get fit for free at the library. Sonoma County Public Library, Healthy Living at Your Library, and on and on. And there's a few more. This Connections for Health, I'd encourage you to go back. It's a really amazing initiative, a partnership between the Carnegie Library of Pittsburgh and some local colleges, where college students who get trained are actually placed in the library to provide health referrals. And there was a great webinar on this topic sponsored by the National Network of Libraries of Medicine earlier this year, so take a look at that. Another Phoenix Public Library, they have their Fit Phoenix Energy Zone station at the library, which is a partnership with the Phoenix Parks and Recreation as well as Arizona State University to increase physical activity and nutrition awareness among middle school age students. And here's just a picture of one of their Fit Phoenix Energy Zones at the library. And I think just for the sake of time, I'm going to skip this one, but I really, I heard about this at the Association for Library Services to Children, and this initiative, Love Them Out Loud at Dayton, Ohio, is just absolutely phenomenal. So I'll encourage you to take a look more at this later, but you can just see from this slide, look at all the partners that are coming together for this project. Just absolutely amazing. And one of the things I will say about this, the project outcomes I think are interesting and important. The first outcome was that the library is now an education anchor in the community. And also the other outcome was creation of community partnerships. The agencies with which the library partner now have a voice in design and have a tool for parenting education. And the other thing that I think is really interesting about this project is that the library was actually distributing a resource, and so they didn't actually care if families came to the library or not. Of course, it would be great if people came to the library, but if you can actually impact people without requiring them to step through your doors, you're of course going to be expanding your reach. And so these are just when I talk about partnering to increase health, there's oftentimes lots of hesitations that people have. People feel like they don't have time. Someone has to staff the desk. So how do I go out and partner? There's fears of miscommunication or non-communication. We all here in the U.S., we have the stereotype that parks and recreation and libraries can't work together. And there's these fear of overlap, being superseded, territoriality. Maybe we're really gung-ho about this, but our library directors are less enthused. So we may feel unconnected, and we're unsure where to start, who's the best partner. And I'll talk a little bit about how to address those. But some of the benefits are that you can broaden the reach of your library. The library really steps up to the plate as a community leader. You can tap community expertise, so it's not just on you and your staff's shoulders to develop programs and services, create a sense of excitement, and also create powerful community links that you may be able to use for future endeavors. And so now we'll get into the more interactive component of the webinar. Let's work through a little bit how we do this. And I'll be using a tool that I really recommend, which is the Action Guide for Re-envisioning Your Public Library, which is put out by the Aspen Institute as an appendix to their Rising to the Challenge Re-envisioning Public Libraries report. And so they have 4 strategies for success in their action guide, and we're really going to be focusing today on how do you align library services in support of community goals. Let's see. And so just to kind of get this conversation going, I have a question for you all. What is something you have worked on within a network, in other words, with partners to accomplish? And so it could include an ad hoc network within your library. So for instance, maybe it was youth services and the adult services department working together for a special program. Or maybe it was something that involved external partners. And so if you wouldn't mind, just take a minute and maybe just write a sentence or two about something you may have done with partners in your library. And actually, I can see the chat, Bobby, so I think as you type things in, I will be able to see them.
Oh, good. That's great. You know, yeah, sometimes the speaker either is choosing not to see it or can't see it. This is interesting because this is also, as you know, when I teach the class, this is a section I do on programming, and we have people share what they're already doing. Like, I always hear about great partnerships. So hopefully everybody is finding the chat box. Just a reminder, if you aren't finding the chat box, that you can go to the view options and exit full screen mode, and that should bring the chat box up on your right. I see somebody's typed a comment in there. I'll let you read those, I guess, Noah, since you can see them.
Yep, and I'll just be reading your comments out loud because otherwise I don't think they'll be picked up by the recorder. So we have Beth saying that she has started a lunch and learn program for adults with partners from the local hospital, as well as with a mental health provider. That's great, Beth. Kathleen says that her walk and talk program meets at the library and walks to a point of local historic interest where a brief program is presented. And then they also have family art nights, which brings together families for creative activities. Really good examples. And thank you, Kathleen. The other thing that I like about what Kathleen points out is that you can kind of weave humanities into everything. So I think libraries, we're not just humanities institutions, but I think people tend to think of us as more on the humanities side of things. And so I like the kind of local history walking tour. Yeah, so I think you can kind of find a way to weave books and the humanities into these programs. Marcia says that she's a health sciences librarian who has worked with a local public librarian to present health information resources training at a senior center. Very, very interesting, and I love the libraries and senior centers working together. My previous library partnered with local elementary schools to bring yoga into the classroom. Fascinating. Cindy says that she works with local memory care facilities as well as senior service organizations to bring programs to patrons in memory care. She presents programs to patrons in 9 memory care facilities, and she's a librarian in Peoria. Great, Cindy. Thank you so much for sharing that, and what an amazing outreach initiative. I love this idea. I love that you're going out and actually presenting programs and memory care facilities. Great to hear that. And then we have a patron who obtained support through library-sponsored breastfeeding LLL group meeting. And that's great too. And one thing I haven't mentioned is this idea of libraries actually hosting support groups, which is another trend that I've seen rising. And Lily Luell, the researcher from San Jose State University, she found that that was something that is increasing at the San Jose Public Library, actually having ongoing support groups, health-related support groups meeting at libraries. Okay, so thank you. Thanks everyone for sharing. Really fascinating and really interesting to hear everything that you all are working on. Let's see. Okay, so now that you've shared with us a little bit about some of the things that you have done in the past, the next exercise is to think about a health or wellness related priority or goal that may exist in your community or campus. And so if you thought about a goal or priority that you think your community or campus has related to health or wellness, in what ways is your library already supporting these goals? And what could you do more of to support this goal? And if you're unsure of what your community or campus's health or wellness goals are, how would you identify them? So these are a lot of questions, so go ahead and just address whatever question resonates the most with you. And I'll be just checking in on the chat. And as you're typing into the chat, I'm just going to read some of the new comments that came in. So Cindy says that she's working on a partnership with AARP to bring memory cafes to the Peoria area. That's great, Cindy. And I know I've seen some libraries in Massachusetts that do memory cafe programming, and I really like this idea of memory cafes and libraries. And so I think that's great. Really a great idea, Cindy. And let's see, Margie says that she partners with the health department to offer blood pressure checks, and also a local yoga studio did a yoga for teens program during the summer library program. Great to hear, Margie. And so as you're typing in things, Cindy's talking about partnering with AARP to bring memory cafes to the Peoria area, and so that kind of one thing that I'm hearing from that is that we're living in an aging society. The median age of society is getting older, and as a result, there's lots of health and wellness needs relating to our aging society that need to be addressed, and public libraries need to do more to support healthy aging. And so I see kind of that as kind of a broad health and wellness related priority that I'm hearing the Peoria Public Library is really proactively addressing. So kudos to you, Cindy, and to the staff of the Peoria Public Library. Let's see some other things coming in here. Kathleen says that the local health department has emphasized inclusive playground equipment, and she would love to have an outdoor play area at the library. Fascinating. That's a really that I think that's a great idea, and there's a kernel there, a kernel of knowledge, but a kernel of something that could be really powerful. And I have seen lots of libraries develop at play spaces, both indoor and outdoor play spaces, since play is seen as kind of an intrinsic part of early literacy. And so I think kind of working with the health department to have an inclusive play space, either indoors or outdoors, would be a great way to support a local health priority area. Another comment, how staff might approach mental health issues, both internally and externally. And I think that's a great point as well. And I think there's definitely a big need both internally, the workplace wellness component, which the current ALA president has made a big priority. So there's that's also a nationwide priority within our profession to support kind of workplace wellness for librarians. And so, great. And let's see, so Beth says we need to move more at all levels. I'm really looking forward into story walks, yoga, walking club. and we've actually started doing a bit of yoga or dancing. So great to hear, Beth. And so, yeah, so I'm hearing some different priorities: inclusive play spaces, supporting healthy aging, supporting mental health, both of our staff and of our patrons, and supporting physical activity. So those are all kind of great health and wellness priorities, and I'm really pleased to hear how you all are thinking about how you may want to address them. And so now I have a little bit more provocative question, I would say. If you asked a random person in your community or campus if they think of librarians as partners or leaders in a healthy community, what do you think they would say? And then what does that tell you about the work that we need to do? So this is kind of a rhetorical question, but I would say in most places, the librarian is not always seen as kind of someone who has anything to do with health at all. And so I think we definitely need to be part of the conversation and kind of networking with people who care about health in our communities as a first step to being, as I went back at the beginning, if you're not part of the conversation, you can't be part of the solution. And I think as we go out and try to start partnerships, we need to emphasize that we as librarians, we really do bring a lot to the table, and we have to be able to toot our own horn, so to speak, and talk about all the great work that we're doing both in our communities and nationwide. And sometimes if you mention to potential partners, did you know that the Nashville Public Library is doing X, Y, and Z, and maybe if you and I work together, we could do what the Nashville Public Library is already doing so successfully. But we bring such strong advocacy skills. As librarians, we know that we always have to advocate for libraries, advocate for library funding, and we can bring those same advocacy skills to health and wellness and advocating for healthy spaces that are inclusive of all abilities and ages. We bring information connections, of course. That's kind of our forte. So we can bring our knowledge of how to find information and inject that into the conversation. Our strong focus on literacy is an asset that we bring. We also have good partnering models. One of the things that I think librarians do actually a lot better than some other sectors, such as parks and recreation or senior centers, is that we really work well with one another. We have incredibly strong consortiums and networks, such as the Greater Midwest region of the National Network of Libraries of Medicine. So we're actually already incredibly good at partnering with other libraries. And so I think we can bring those partnering models and extend them beyond the library sector to the broader community. And so as you're going out, what you really want to think of is how do you identify and engage with community leaders? And these are just some attributes of community leader. They're people who are known in the community, are likely to be committed to this work or to community health. They're key influencers. They cut across boundary sectors and they ensure broad inclusion. And so these are just some of my go-to health partners. I've been doing a blog series every month for the programming librarian, each month kind of highlighting different partners that libraries can work with. But definitely hospitals and healthcare systems, especially foundations. I've actually found that libraries tend to do the most if they can get hooked up to the local hospital foundation, which is where they have the money that they spread around for various programs. Local health departments, aging agencies, area agencies on aging, councils on aging, parks and recreation departments at both local, regional, state, and national levels, cooperative extension systems, in the U.S. Department of Agriculture more generally, which supports both the summer feeding program and the after-school feeding program, which some libraries are now also participating in to offer youth healthy snacks after school during the school year. Local businesses, United Way, and on and on and on. I want to spend a minute talking about some of the challenges associated with sharing leadership across a network, because this is oftentimes where this can be a sticking point. Who's in charge? Who's running the ship? How do we kind of keep this afloat? And so it can be time consuming, as I mentioned in that proverb. It's you can probably get something done quicker if you do it by yourself than if you work with a partner. But the impact is probably not going to be as broad. So it can be time consuming. Sometimes you have to navigate conflict among network members, which can sometimes have cultural components. Leaders must know their own positions, their own interests, as well as their own limits. I think sometimes people bite off more than they can chew, and then burnout results. Uh, it can be challenging to help people transition from an individual to groupthink. And what I mean by that is that getting out of your silo and really kind of, it's almost like leaning back and trusting that your partner is going to be there for you. And it does mean relinquishing some control on both the issue and the outcomes. And shared ownership means shared accountability, which can be tricky, and it makes it challenging to take blame or to give credit. And people are reticent or uninterested in taking part in a network or a networked approach, which is something that sometimes happens. And I see a question about the action guide. I'll share that in a minute. I also have posted the slides, and I'll show you where to get the slides in a minute as well. Just thinking about your communities, beyond the things that I've identified here, are there other things that you can think of that may deter potential partners from wanting to collaborate with you on a program or to develop a new service? Are there any obstacles you anticipate either internally to your institution or externally in the community? And as you're typing, I'll just go ahead and continue along just for the sake of time, because I think that one of the ways to kind of circumvent reticence is to keep your eyes on the prize, so to speak, and to really be able to communicate the benefits that come from partnering. They increase familiarity. They build trust in communities. They lead to stronger support for your library because if you're out there partnering with community entities, they're going to have your back when it comes time for your funding, for that bond referendum, whatever it may be, levying tax support. You're increasing advocates for the library, and yeah, you're kind of and yeah, a big obstacle is always administrative buy-in, and that can definitely be a challenge if you're trying to branch into new areas. And yeah, if it's a brand new area, as Beth says, health programming at her library is a brand new concept. So having to overcome folks' own thinking about this shouldn't be happening at the library. And Beth, I think with that one in particular, I would really recommend perhaps sharing with partners examples of what other libraries are doing. I found that can oftentimes be a good way to convince people. If you can show people what other libraries in other parts of the country are doing, they may come around. Yeah, and so a really great question here. How do you approach not enough library staff volunteers connecting with community served due to cultural differences? And that's a really good and tricky question. So the question is, how do you, if you and your staff and among your volunteers are not adequately representing the cultural diversity of your community, it can be hard to reach out to communities that don't look like you and don't look like your staff. And I think that's a really tricky and complex thing. And with something like that, one thing that I would actually recommend at a starting point, and this may seem a little bit roundabout, but one thing that I would recommend is to start actually a teen volunteer group, and try to make sure when you're kind of building like a teen, and one example that I've seen is that the Charlotte Mecklenburg Library has this really successful volunteer program, which really gives the teenagers a voice at the library. But by pulling in those teenagers as volunteers and active members in the library, they tend to be more diverse, more multicultural than most Friends of the Library groups. And so by pulling in a more diverse volunteers, that can be an entry point to more broadly engaging multicultural communities. And then also Margie says about how do you establish the individual roles of the partners, or things will fall apart. And yeah, and I think the only amendment I would make to Margie's comment is that you don't necessarily have to be the one doing that establishing. And in fact, I think sometimes network leadership works the most when you're comfortable having someone else define for you what your role will be. And so that's really, you don't always have to be driving the ship. But one of the corollaries of that is that you have to be comfortable allowing at certain points someone else to tell you what you should be doing, which can sometimes be a tricky thing to do. But it's I think it's really important to this all working. And so these are just some elements of successful networks. They involve collaborative problem solving and decision making. It's not just you kind of deciding how things are going to work and what everyone's going to do, but you have to be willing to have some give and take, and some flexibility, and perhaps doing things that you as a librarian never thought that you would be doing. You have to have some collaborative processes set up. And I'm just going to skip. So how do you get started with this? Well, the one thing that I always recommend is actually having a health fair at the library. I mean, what a great way to kind of pull together a group of partners for a one-off program. And there's some great resources about how to do a health fair. Here's one from Montana. The Montana State Library has a fairly sizable document called Planning a Health Fair, Everything You Ever Wanted to Know, and more. Web Junction has some great resources. I wrote a blog post. There's some great models on the Programming Librarian website. One from the Gail Borden Public Library, which has been featured in a past Kernel of Knowledge webinar, which I really encourage you to take a look at, because they're really doing this. My talk has been a bit more theoretical, but if you really want to see this in action, take a listen to that webinar from the Gail Borden Public Library, because what they're doing in Elgin is just absolutely amazing. There's a model from this library in rural Pennsylvania, which has been doing this family health and safety fair for 12 years, amazingly. So if you may think you're just going to do it once to see how it goes, but in Pennsylvania now they do it every year, and they have been doing it for 12 years. And it's just so it's and it's a great way to pull together partners, and also kind of establish the idea that libraries have a role to play in promoting health by having a big health fair at the library. And as it says here, the budget is free. Basically, everything is paid for by the partners. So the library, I mean, they have some staffing time, but other than that, there's no cost to the library. Let's see, we're running a little bit out of time. But one thing I want to say, do you have to do everything with partners? And the answer is no. And so I think, as I said, if you want to have a big impact, you really need to have some external partners. But depending on what you're thinking about doing, it may not be the right idea. If you already have an extremely clear plan of action, and you know exactly what you want to do, you know exactly how you want to do it, and you have everything kind of organized internally so that you can do it, and also if you want to be in control, which is fine. I think sometimes it's fine to want to be in control. Then, or if you need to take credit for the outcomes of whatever happens, these are reasons why it would probably not be a good idea to involve external partners. And so partnerships are not the panacea to everything, and they're not for all programs. But I think for a lot of things they can be very beneficial, but not for everything. But in any case, the result of all of this should be that the library is the heart of a healthy community. Going back to where we started. And just we're running a little bit out of time, but I want to just quickly talk about assessment and how do you tell stories of success. And what I really would encourage you to think about is both collecting stories and numbers, how many people came, how many lives were touched, but also how did this work affect the library's role in the community, a more qualitative question, and what stories or feedback do you get from participants, and keep track, maybe in a notebook, maybe on your internal servers, keep track of stories of impact. And as I mentioned, the Charlotte Mecklenburg Library here in North Carolina, they have a really good system for tracking stories of impact. So you want to track outputs, what we did, outcomes, the difference it made, and then again, those stories of impact, personal stories of success as a result of library programs. And I include here the outcomes of the Dayton project that I mentioned, where the two outcomes of the initiative where the library was seen as an education anchor in the community, and the other outcome was the creation of community partnerships itself. So if you're creating community partnerships, that is an outcome. Even if the program isn't successful, you've still created a network that you can use for future endeavors. And just some more resources for further learning. You can follow me on the Programming Librarian, and I've posted the slides for today's webinar on my website. So if you go to letsmovelibraries.org and click on events, you can get the slides for today. And if you have any questions, reach out to me at any point. Here's my email. It's simple to remember, just my last name at unzg.edu. And I know we just have a few more minutes, but now I'll just kind of take any questions or comments if anyone has in the last few minutes that we have together. Okay, so Marcia says, health programming. I was planning to attend until I realized registering with the hospital was required. I knew I'd end up on the hospital's marketing mailing list forever, so I didn't attend. Any advice for libraries facing this kind of thing while collaborating with other groups? Yeah, Marcia, I think that's a great question. And one thing that I've actually seen, so some libraries will actually have policies for if they partner with a business. And so one of the things that a library will stipulate in its programming policy guide is that a business can come to a library and do a program as long as they're not promoting the business. And so I would say if you had a policy like that in place, you could say that yeah, you can't require people to join your mailing list or register with the hospital or the business, because that's kind of promoting the business, promoting the hospital to the exclusion of other hospitals or healthcare institutions. Yeah. I would say you want to make sure as a librarian to have a policy in place so that you can kind of tell your partners, as a matter of course, we're not playing favors. We don't want to privilege one hospital or business over another, and so we want to work with you to bring programs to our community, but not to the point of promoting your business or hospital to the exclusion of others. That would be my advice. I'm not sure if that makes sense. Hopefully it does. Yeah, so and actually there is and let me see if I can do that really quickly, or I may have to, but there's a really, I actually blogged about this when I blogged about partnering with businesses, and I posted a few policies. Let me see if I can get that really quickly. I think I'm 2 clicks away from it, so bear with me for a minute. So I'm posting it now into the chat box. And if you scroll down, so if you open this link, if you scroll down to the FAQ, so this is a library in Texas that actually, they wrote an article in the local newspaper, and the article was, "Library seeks to partner with local businesses for community programs." And yeah, so I thought that was kind of a bold approach to just write in the newspaper, "We want to work with you." But then they have this FAQ at the bottom that talks about, well, we can't promote your business. We want to work with you to increase programs. But if you look at the FAQ, it talks about some of the things that the library won't do. We won't promote your business. We won't, yeah, but take a look. Hopefully that'll be useful. I think it would also be useful in terms of working with hospitals, which are, of course, also businesses in many instances.
Noah, this was wonderful. Usually this is the point where I have to jump in and ask if people have questions and encourage them to speak up, but you have handled all that wonderfully the whole time. We're right at 12 o'clock, so it is time to end. I assume if anyone has questions, they can contact you directly?
Yeah, please do. I'd be more than happy to talk with any of you or do any follow-ups. Yeah, so reach out.
All right, well, thank you so much for being here today, everyone. We definitely appreciate you attending our Kernel of Knowledge session with the Greater Midwest region, and the lights went off. All right, thank you, everybody. Thanks, Noah.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching. This video was produced by the National Network of Libraries of Medicine. Select the circular channel icon to subscribe to our channel. Select a video thumbnail to watch another video from the channel.